Today, we're breaking down vibe coding, what vibe coding is, when it helps, and how to take it to the next level with techniques like spec-driven development and more so that your AI-assisted code is safe, testable, and shippable. Now, let's get started because maybe you've seen AI coding agents already as part of an IDE like VS Code or IntelliJ, where a developer is working and building out their code, right? And for example, let's say we have our project structure and repository here. We're working on some code in this space, and on the right, where we've got some type of AI-assisted coding extension, or it's part of our IDE itself, where we're asking questions to a coding model or an agentic model saying, hey, I want a Java project and want it to be a banking API with these specific dependencies, right? And by using one of these inline editors, I'm able to, one, let the model think about the request I want to make in conjunction with the code that I have or want to have, right? I will get an edit into my project where, hey, you want to add this file, I want to approve or reject this as a developer myself. And then maybe it works. Maybe we have a command here to run it and we test that out here and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but we fix it on the fly. And boom, the demo is working. Now that, my friends, is what we call vibe coding. So vibe coding, as the name entails, is when you give into the vibes as you're building out a new application or you're working on something. And it's really, really cool as a use case for agentic AI, right? So our agent here, being the code editor, has access to our project tools that we can call. And this is a really fast and fun way to get a demo out or build an application from scratch, but it can be tricky for production. So how can you vibe code effectively? Well, I want to show you some of the best practices I use and how to get started for AI-assisted coding and vibe coding as a developer, an engineer, or if you're just someone who's looking to learn more. So vibe coding entails generating code with the assistance of a large language model, but it goes one step further where you might not actually fully read that generated code. It's a series and kind of a flow of doing a little bit of prompt engineering to get the right desired output, and then seeing those recommended changes and approving or declining code, and then iterating on those with perhaps running your code and fixing it at the same time. So it's kind of a loop of this type of pattern based on the React framework. So being able to understand and reason and then take actions using tools specifically for us is writing code. And many of these can exist within our IDEs. So something like what this example is, or even through a browser by connecting your code repositories. And vibe coding makes it really easy to quickly scaffold an application, right? So you could think of setting up a demo app, really easy to do with vibe coding, asking questions about code base. So what is my project structure and how does it work? But it's also well suited for tasks like building out a CLI or perhaps a UI and scaffolding that, or maybe even doing some scripting, which I tend to do myself. And there's some situations where you might not want to do vibe coding though. So let's think about anything where we have, for example, an API key, right? Because when we're trusting a large language model, well, it can be susceptible to things such as hallucinations, right? Where the model makes up something, and vibe coding sometimes means skipping a lot of traditional software development practices like test and reviews and continuous integration and documentation that's really needed for deployment-ready code. So how can you be a better vibe coder? Before we actually get to the coding phase, let's talk a little bit about architecture and designing our application. And a good strategy here is writing, or if you want to, generating test first using something known as test-driven development. And this is a deterministic way to get your vibe-coded application working as it should. At the same time, there's a new trend, which is known as spec-driven development, that allows us to build APIs and services by having a clear outline for what your coding agent should follow. For example, if we have multiple desired outcomes that we need, we can cross every one off as we go. Now, this is helpful for the architectural phase, but when it's time for implementation, the ability to use tools is really helpful to have our coding agent up to date with the newest libraries, documentation, and be able to do automated testing without you having to even touch the terminal. Now, using tools like Model Context Protocol is also super helpful here. And as we're building out these features and implementing our application, we can also make sure that we're doing proper versioning with a tool such as Git to ensure that as we add features and capabilities to our application, we can track everything in a structure so we can revert and go back and forth as needed. Now, let's talk about the last section, which is reviewing and actually understanding what's happening when we've produced this outputted code from a coding agent. So in many cases, this can actually take longer than writing the code itself to understand the code that has been created. Now, the basics still apply, so being able to lint and do type checks is quite important, but also understanding the potential security risks. So making sure that we're doing security scanning for our dependencies, for vulnerabilities that might exist, for secrets that we've hard-coded. And we can even use a separate agent from our vibe coding agent to be able to take a look at, from an outside perspective, the code we've created and help as we're pushing our code to a repository before it's actually in the real world. So it might sound like a lot, but these tips can really speed up and help you be safe as you're vibe coding and building out your application. Unfortunately, most coding agents actually already have capabilities to adapt to your project, understand the libraries and tools and development practices you use, and even include this into the system prompt to help you architect, implement, and review your code to save time and frustration when you're vibing. So vibe coding can be really powerful, but as the saying goes, with great power comes great responsibility. So let us know in the comments below how vibe coding has been going for you. And if you want to deep dive deeper on any of these related topics, please let us know in the comment section. If you learned something today, be sure to hack the algorithm and like the video. And make sure you're subscribed for the channel for more open source and AI learning. We'll see you in the next one.